Our top story today, the esports industry bore witness to the consequences of personal greed. AHQ's Chan Promise Min Ki attempted to commit suicide after leaving a haunting tell-all note on Facebook explaining how AHQ was pressured into throwing their games by manager No Dae Chol. According to the Promise's suicide note, No, who lied about the extent of AHQ's sponsorship, had told the team to leave after being confronted after his machinations. Our Korean correspondent Susie Kim has a special report.
A tragic event happened today as former League of Legends player AHQ Promise revealed disturbing news about match-fixing scandals before jumping off of a 12-story building in hopes to take his life. Luckily, he is still alive and currently being treated at a hospital in Busan. League of Legends commentator Monte Cristo shares his thoughts on the situation.
Well, Monty, thank you for taking out the time to talk to me about this situation here. As someone who's been in the Korean LoL scene for as long as you have been, what are your thoughts on this whole Promise issue and the scandal that's coming up from it?
I mean, if you've been following Korean esports for a while, this isn't the first time that there has been a match-fixing scandal, so I suppose it's not terribly surprising. If we go back to Brood War, it's not obviously anywhere near the scope of the Savior match-fixing scandal, which involved a lot more professional teams as opposed to kind of an amateur team that apparently was sponsored, not actually sponsored by AHQ, so yeah, apparently just the manager lying about the actual sponsorship of the team, really disturbing and sad stuff. It's just really hard because I think one of the things about esports in Korea and everywhere, of course, it's not just Korea that's had shady managers and shady teams and all of these deals gone bad. So it was just a shady manager pretending that he was part of an organization that he wasn't, and then apparently, so as I understand it so far, and we may find more information out, the manager came in with the HQ gear sponsorship, pretended it was a full sponsorship from the professional organization, instead borrowed money from loan sharks to finance the team, and then from there told his players to throw matches effectively because he pretended that OGN was expecting their team to lose, so implying that OGN was fixing their own matches, which is just absolutely ridiculous and not true. Yeah, OGN has always operated with the highest integrity, so lying to the players saying that it was OGN who wanted them to lose, and then his players rejecting that, winning games that they weren't supposed to win, therefore losing their manager a lot of money in the betting, and that caused him eventually to flee. So what was weird about this whole situation, remembering back on it now, was that AHQ actually allegedly dropped their sponsorship about a week or two before the end of the round of 16 in Champions, which is strange because at the time AHQ was still a contender for a seed in the playoffs. And so it was very odd that AHQ would suddenly drop their sponsorship, but in the world of esports, oftentimes you don't think twice about these things or pause to investigate them because teams rise and fall with such regularity, especially more minor teams or teams that have sponsorships from outside their home region. And sometimes things just happen. If it had been a sponsorship like Samsung or SK Telecom, clearly there would have been a lot more questions about that. But as it was, I didn't think much of it at the time, but it seems like all this was happening behind the scenes. I'm just sad that the players didn't feel comfortable or felt threatened in some way and didn't want to kind of come forward with this information sooner.
Okay, you have casted Promise's games before. At the time, did you ever feel that there was something off about those games that made you, suspect that there might have been fixings?
No, I think it's really hard to qualify that too, because obviously it's difficult to tell when a player is intentionally making mistakes. I mean, there have been some examples, and the kind of big scandal that already happened in Champions was the match between the Bullets and Frost when they were both trying to lose to avoid playing Najin's sword, allegedly both trying to lose. But that game was like, from my perspective, it was pretty evident that both teams didn't want to win that game. It was a really, really ridiculous game. And so that's why we changed kind of the format here of the round of 16 in Champions to prevent that situation from occurring again, where you would know your definitive playoff opponent before actually getting into that match. But that caused, a lot of problems here too. But as for AHQ, I never detected that really about them at all. And what was interesting about AHQ too is that most of those players ended up after AHQ collapsed, going to the Jin Air Stealth, which is a very reputable organization, no problems there. So most of them did end up on a KeSPA professional team. So I guess I just didn't really think much of it.
Now today at Masters OGN, the chairman of KeSPA came to express his concerns.
지금 여러 가지 문제가 있다고 판단을 하고 특히 감독에 문제가 있지 않는가라는 판단을 가지고 지금 형사적 조치를 진행 중에 있다라는 말씀을 드립니다. 클린 e스포츠 환경을 아주 강력하고도 더욱더 단호하게 추진해 나갈 것이다.
InVen has set up a donation page if anyone wishes to help Promise out with medical fees. We wish him a steady recovery.
Thank you very much, Susie Kim. Promise, who took a 12-story plunge from a building, fortunately has survived injuries, according to reports from MonteCristo. However, according to League of Legends, again, MonteCristo promised the road to recovery will be a long and arduous one. Meanwhile, local authorities, KeSPA and Riot Games Korean representatives are currently conducting investigations on the case.